Sir. Sir.
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you too, man.
You look great.
Thank you. Likewise, man.
Thank you. I tried to throw
Dripping.
it on for you.
Dripping.
Oh, please. Please. How
Man.
you feeling, man?
I feel, I just lost my brother, my younger brother, my only sibling.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you, bro. January 28th. So, it's been a really trying year of a lot of suffering. But what's been like really paradoxical about it is experiencing these extreme personal lows and these extreme professional highs all at the same time.
Mm.
And the altitude sickness that's come with that, so to speak,
Yeah.
I study a lot of, read a lot of biographies, study a lot of people's journeys, and it's not, it's not anomalous to me in any kind of way. So, I'm just moving with the current of the sea as it is right now. But I've been here up north for quite some time, just kind of like trying to balance life in a way, if that's even possible, balance that is, because when you love what you do, as you do and I do, there's no balance, candidly, to be found. So, sorry to start off on such a heavy note, but you asked
listen.
You asked what I'm doing, so I'm giving you an honest answer.
I'm down to get morbid, but even that does sound not only taxing but challenging.
Yeah.
Right? Is there any way to compartmentalize or separate what I'm going through personally from whatever I'm experiencing professionally?
No, not for me. Because my brother worked at Gamma.
Oh.
We created so much stuff together. He was my board of directors one-on-one. Part of the reason, by the way, why like this is either me sitting down and having this conversation is either the stupidest thing that I've done in a very, really long time, or it's, I don't know what it'll turn out to be. And I'm saying that with in a self-effacing way, because everyone's got an opinion. So it's like, you shouldn't do it. It's not the time. It's too hot. But candidly, candidly, when you called me up in the podcast about 3 weeks ago, we were joking, half joking, and I was like, yeah, 30 days. And I pride myself on being a person of my word. So here we are, less than 30 days later.
Less than 30 days. Thank you, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
You know what though? Like it's so many. I feel like there are certain voices that we need to hear from, and you're one of them. Like especially today, like there's only but so many black executives we have with a wealth of knowledge about all things going on in music, and all of you guys are behind the scenes. Like I get that. But sometimes we need to hear y'all. I thought it was important. I was glad you even answered the phone when we called.
Dude, for you, come on, man. I don't even have your number saved in my phone. I know it by heart. So I was like, oh, shit.
My man.
917-22, blah, 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 blah.
Sounds like Joe. Sounds like Joe. I do want to get into a little bit about your background, because you've been a mythical figure for so long. But let's start with some fun shit. Let's start with all of the labels that there used to be and all of the labels that are no longer.
Wow.
Because I was watching your panel, and when you brought up the Telecommunications Act.
Of 1996, the one that Bill Clinton passed, yeah.
Yeah, I'm at that time, I'm 16, I'm a kid in Jersey City just trying to rap.
Yeah.
I don't even have any idea about any of that. Can you go into detail about that, please?
Yeah, I mean...
sounds important.
It's very important and we're living in the wake of that right now, quite frankly. In 1996, Bill Clinton, I just saw yesterday at the Milken Conference where I spoke right before him, he passed a bill in 1996 that allowed for the deregulation in media. So at the time, actually, I was working for a company called Chancellor Media at a station called KMEL in San Francisco. Probably like one of the top radio stations in the country. I was 16 too in 1996, actually. And when that bill passed, it allowed for a company that was just formed out of Texas called Clear Channel to go and acquire More than 2 radio stations per market. That was the limit at that particular point in time.
So they would just form Clear Channel.
It was birthed from that particular bill being passed, yeah. But not just that, you had also allowed for Polygram to buy Def Jam and for basically what has created the modern day Universal Music Group, you know, that didn't exist because prior to that you had all of these little independent mom and pop labels. You had Jive, you had Def Jam, you had Virgin,
Loud.
you had Tommy Boy, you had Loud, you had so on and so forth, you know? Priority, yeah. Asylum, thank you. You know, and all of them were ultimately acquired for market share and absorbed into these larger companies.
And that was not allowed before then?
No. Even I'll take you to Disney. Disney was able to buy Cap Cities at that particular point in time. So they were a content company that was actually able to own broadcast channels at that time. So everything we're living in this particular way is kind of like, in this particular construct rather of media and music is really in the wake of that. And it changed a lot, you know? It changed a lot in the sense that, you know, once iHeart, Clear Channel then became iHeart, once iHeart was able to program music for all of these radio stations around the country, all from one city like New York, you lost a bit of that local feeling and perspective and energy that, as
Culture.
you know, and you know, one of the stations that still one of my favorite stations in the entire world is Hot 97, because they still have that local personality. It's still programmed in New York City, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of the stations that people listen to around the country are programmed out of another city, you know? The morning shows that are syndicated have nothing to do about what's going on in Jacksonville or Little Rock or New Orleans or Shreveport or any of those places like that.
They tried that in New York, it didn't go well.
It didn't go well. Because it's such a specific place, you know? So anyway, not to ramble on about it, I brought that up and because we're living in the post effect of that with respect to so much in media, you know, everything I covered. So in any event, that's a little bit of that history since you're asking me specifically about the 1996 telecommunications bill.
So from KMEL at 16, then you go where?
I started at KMEL when I was 11, and that was, I mean...
And how's that possible?
I was just winning radio contests all day long. I was caller 106 all the time. My little, you know, 9-year-old, 10-year-old fingers were nimble enough to, like, before speed dial, to just crack the code, you know? And I still don't know how that was even possible, but I did. And after a while, I won so much, they were like, kid, you can't win anymore. You let other people win, but come down, we'll give you a tour of the station. So, you know, me thinking like a hustler at 11 years old, I turned that into an internship. And so from the time that I was 11 to the time that I was 16, I pretty much sacrificed my adolescence to pour myself into something that I had a tremendous amount of passion for, which was music. And my outlet to access music at that particular point in time in a real way was at the probably most influential crossover station in the country, as luck would have it, you know. And KMEL, you know, the Wake Up Show, Sway started there. It was such an incredible time, colorful time, a formative time for hip hop, and I just happened to be there at the right time, at the right place as a young person. And with that, I became a DJ. I was on air DJ probably by the time I was 14, 15. And I became the music director there by the time I was 16.
Wow.
Yeah.
And from there?
And from there, I left about 2000, summer 2000, and Clive Davis saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself, was that I had, based on my record picking ability as a music director and me making out of the box choices on records that we were going to add to the station, he saw that I was getting it right more times than I got it wrong. And I didn't listen to what was the priority. I played what I felt, you know, the station should be playing and should be programming. And he saw something again in me that I didn't see in myself and hired me at 19 when he was being ousted from Arista at that time and starting J Records. He hired me at 19 to become a director of A&R at J Records when the company was just being formed and started.
Wow, that is Jimmy Cozier.
Yes.
Jimmy Cozier.
Yes.
J Records.
That's Jimmy. Yeah, that's a really good reference. Shout out to Jimmy Cozier.
Yeah,
that was Jimmy Cozier. Actually, the first day I remember being at Clive's home in August of 2000 in Pound Ridge. Jimmy Cozier was there and Alicia Keys was there as well. And Alicia sat down at the piano in Clive's really grand living room in upstate New York in Pound Ridge and played Donny Hathaway's Someday We'll All Be Free. And when I heard that, I knew that I needed to be a part of this company. I knew that she was a once in a generation talent. You just felt it, you know? It wasn't realized yet, but it was palpable. You could feel it. And Jimmy Cozier was there. And you also felt his talent too, you know? His first single was called She's All I Got. Mm-hmm. Remember that?
Yeah.
And
with the Fab remix.
The Fab remix was hot. You know, he was running up the charts at Hot 97 and it was a big R&B record. And yeah, that's how we started off J Records. And then from that came O-Town, Maroon 5. O-Town. You remember O-Town?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I worked on all those projects. I was 19. I wasn't even 21 yet. I was 19. I signed Tyrese on my 21st birthday. So we made like How You Gonna Act Like That and all those records together, and with the underdogs, Harvey Mason Jr. and Damon Thomas. You know, shout out to both of those guys that really in many ways made my career at J Records, because they just we created so many hits together. Luther Vandross was there at the time. Keith Naftali and I came up with Luther's first single, Take You Out, a record written by Harold Lilly that was given to me as a demo by Big John Platt, who now is the chairman and CEO. I mean, you know, people have a lot of conspiracy theories, but the thing that I will say is that relationships run deep. I've known Big John since 1998, you know, since I was in radio when he signed Warren Campbell, and, you know, Shackles was Mary Mary's first record, and you know, I was like the only one who wanted to step out and play that record on a secular station. And it helped to, you know, break his new signing at EMI at that time.
Because
so,
most people would lose their job if they step out on a limb with an act and it fails.
Well, you know, I was an A&R at the time, so I was programming the station. But yeah, when you add records that aren't hits and you show that you don't have a feel for taste, you'll 100% you'll lose your job too. But I just didn't have any. I think my youth at that time provided me. I didn't know what the rules were. I got kicked out of high school, bro. I never graduated high school, and I haven't gone to a university. And I used to be ashamed to talk about that, but if anything, it's really a badge of honor now, because, you know, I haven't looked back since that day, and it was like a cessation of like this infantilization of like, you know, generally people sometimes go on to college just to kind of figure out what they want to do in life. I had to figure out what the fuck I needed to do in life at 17.
Yeah,
when I got
same.
kicked out. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I got hired by Clive at 19. I don't even think I told Clive that I had just got kicked out of high school. He was hired somebody with an 8th grade diploma. Maybe he's finding it out right now.
Listen, that's one of the things I love about the music business, is that all are welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not about where you went to school or academia or on any level. It's about grit and determination. And talent, of course, but it's about grit and determination as the foundation for the talent. And yeah, that's been my story. So yeah, I mean, you know, J Records was just an incredible time. I mean, I'm sure you probably remember because you were an artist at that time. But it was Luther, it was Maroon 5. Clive and I started, we were there right at the ground floor in American Idol and had an incredible run with that.
Oh yeah, y'all was cheating the game with that. American Idol. The acts, they would sign to
J
Records.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned so much from Clive, man, that I really almost call it kind of counting cards. He taught me how to count cards as it relates to what is the science of what makes a hit. And you can't be someone like that and be doing it for decade after decade after decade, and there's not some common denominator that you can identify, even in your 70s, of what makes a record a hit or not. And I call that, funnily, or figuratively speaking, counting cards, and he taught me how to count cards. So, I had a lot of hits with him across all the American Idol stuff we did. Kelly Clarkson, Ruben Studdard, Fantasia, Carrie Underwood, Daughtry, etc. It was a lot that we did. It was nonstop. It was probably, shout out to Simon Fuller, that's probably the most successful label venture I would probably venture to say of all time, Really? And I was a part of that in my early 20s, and so it's unless you do your research on people, you really never really know these things, do you?
Now, J Records eventually folded.
J Records was a part of BMG, and BMG was acquired by Sony in 2007.
Got it.
And when BMG was acquired by Sony in 2007, J Records became part of a label group that was consolidated. Speaking of consolidation and post-1996 again, it was consolidated into RCA, J Records, and Jive Records. And then that's become kind of the modern day RCA Music Group.
Wow.
Yeah.
There seems to be a lot of consolidation still happening today.
Yeah, and I think what happens when you can only put your thumb down on something for so long before there's an explosion of energy around it that does not want that any longer and breaks out of that. And I think the consolidation that's happened, I would say, over the last, call it, 27 years, has now birthed this independent movement. The mobile phone has created a democratization of distribution in a way that's never existed before. And there's an expression, of course, that gatekeepers. There just are no more gatekeepers anymore. And that might sound like a hyperbolic thing to say, but it's really not. So now at this particular point in time, it's about amplification and facilitation. I mean, look at your own experience, right? Let's look at that in a microcosmic way.
Let's do it.
You have arguably or inarguably the most popular podcast right now in music. I won't even say for the culture. I would say in music, cross music, multi-formats, multi-genres. In the 90s, would that be possible? You'd have to be on MTV. You'd have to be Tigger. You'd have to be Ed Lover or Dr. Dre. You'd have to be anointed by a gatekeeper.
True.
By Van Toffler at that time, or Judy McGrath, or Rick Krim, or John Sykes. They would have to bless you with their baton and say, "You are now anointed, sir." Like they did with Carson Daly or Caduce or those people, or Sway. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And now, I don't even know where this interview is being distributed at. Where is this being distributed at?
Anywhere you can get an interview. YouTube for the most part. Patreon. Patreon is where my business model is. But
But you get what I'm saying, though?
You get what
I'm saying? So it's like it's a different time, and it's a beautiful time because of that. And well timed in the age of Aquarius, and the time when the truth is ready to be communicated and received on many levels.
Do independent artists, though, today know just how much power they have within the phone?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I don't think so. And it's part of the reason why I want to do this interview today. Because I'm like, this is such a transformative time. I'm not even sure if everyone realizes how transformative it is. I was looking for an even grander word to explain it, but no, I don't think so. I don't think so. I did Milken yesterday with Usher. Milken Global Conference is, I would say, probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, finance conference in the world. And I sat down with Lisa Lang right before Bill Clinton went on stage with Usher. And I showered him with due praise because Usher had been signed to BMG, which then, as I explained a moment ago, became Sony for 30 years. Do you know how much bravery it takes to unplug yourself from the matrix and decide that you're going to go it alone or independent. Now, mind you, he has us. He's not entirely on his own, of course, right? And, you know, at Gamma, we have, we have, you know, the best of the best in terms of executives and resources, et cetera. But I think it also kind of begs the question of like, what is a major, you know?
Well, that's the question that was coming. Yeah.
Yeah, which I'll answer now. I mean, from my perspective, it's like there are only 3 majors really that exist. We know who they are. But we're not a major, you know? I would never get a job to run any one of those companies. I don't think anybody who looks like me or you would. So therefore, if our music has never been more popular than it's ever been before, 30% of the music that's consumed in the world, the number one music and genre in the world is hip hop and R&B. Why isn't anybody who looks like us running any of those companies? I mean, you know, shout out to Sylvia Rohn, ROG, you know what I'm saying, who's running
Love
Epic
Sylvia.
Records, doing an incredible job too. But I'm talking about above that.
I don't even think we ever set our sights on above that.
Because the ceiling never even allowed us to even
Yeah.
dream or fathom.
Yeah. Like Jay-Z being the president of Def Jam, I guess, was like a moment for artists to rejoice because we never saw that, never thought about it. But yeah, even higher. You're absolutely right.
So from my perspective, that's, you know, not to veer a little bit in the conversation, but I think this is all relative.
No, this is important.
That's why, you know, for me, I could have been an Apple for many years, you know, and just rested on my laurels in that particular way. But that's why I took the risk to do what I'm doing right now, because I felt like there wasn't anybody who looked like us who was doing this particular thing right now. And that was important to me, you know, in that particular way, to leave that. Because as I was saying earlier, the only reason why I thought that it was possible for me to be an intern at KMEL at that time in the 90s was not because I was the first person who thought of the idea, is because I saw Franzen Wong, who, shout out to Franzen, you know, who really gave me one of my early shots. But Franzen was like 16 at the time. And I was like, damn, if that young man could do that, then I could do it, you know? And that gave me the hope to think like it was possible for me to be taken seriously, for me to have a foot in the door, for me to be able to do that. Just as much as it probably made you think at that time, if Jay-Z can be the president of Def Jam, then that's a practical aspiration for me.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
You know? So, yeah, I mean, we're not a major label. We're not a label at all, even quite frankly. We're a company that is a technology company in service to music and media. And we can get into that later on or whatever. But, yeah, man, you know, it's a lot of thoughts all at the same time. But
No, and they're all important. I want to go back to counting cards. I want to go back to counting cards. Have the cards changed over the years? Like today, I'm unsure what even classifies a hit.
to me, they haven't. The feeling that I felt when I heard Since You've Been Gone by Kelly Clarkson,
Oh, that's my record.
which I was there when Max Martin brought in the demo, and it was just like this melody phonetics kind of thing with no words filled in, but the melody was what the song became. Or, you know, when I heard Bleeding Love from Leona Lewis for the first time, I signed her in 2007, and, you know, shout out to Leona and Nicola. When I heard that, and that record went #1, I think, in 30 countries. Or when I heard Don't Like by Chief Keef for the first time. Or even more currently, when I heard Get It Sexy for the first time. It still evokes the same feeling for me, and I know at that particular time, oh, this is gonna go. This is gonna go.
Yeah, but what does go mean? Because if I come up with a hit in 2003. If I come up with a hit, does it function more for the label or for me?
What do you mean by that? Function more for the label or for you?
I came up with a hit in 2003. And,
Pump It Up.
Yeah, and it hit the radio and it was big and I did some shows and I mean, the label took it and spread it around. They put it in movies,
Yeah.
they put it in video games and they just sold it wherever they could.
Yeah.
I had to go hit the road and get mine. I can
What
imagine.
what kind of royalty were you on?
I'd have to check.
Probably 15, 16,
16
points.
points.
Yeah, exactly.
16 points.
Exactly. Yeah, what's crazy about that is like, so you're on a royalty for 16 points. They put you out on the road. You got to go do a Hot 97 Summer Jam. You do this in Raleigh, North Carolina. You do this in Dallas, Texas. This car service, that plane ride, this meal.
Yeah.
So that 16 points is not a clean 16 points.
Not at all.
Right? So I would venture to say you probably didn't see a lot of money from that.
Not at all.
So
yeah, today,
I think that's the answer to your question.
But that's what I'm saying. Today, if I'm an unsigned artist out there with a record that I think has a lot of potential, the decision that they're faced with is, hey, I don't have the resources to get this record to pop like I want. So maybe I have no choice but to go over here and relinquish some of my rights.
I don't think that has to be anyone's reality right now any longer. I'll give you an example, current real-time example of what I mean right now. Guess who has the #1 song on the radio right now, on the actual chart? Forbats.
Okay.
Young man out of Dallas, Texas. Shout out to Boo, Milano. Shout out to Lionel Ridenour. By the way, Lionel Ridenour, who's with us now at Gamma. I haven't announced it yet, so maybe I'll announce it right here. He's the first black head of promotion of any company of this particular nature, right? I think there was somebody who was a head of promotion, I think it was Harold Childs in like 1980, the early 80s at A&M. So I don't want to disrespect his legacy whatsoever, because I think he may have been the head of promotion at A&M.
But even if he's the second, shit.
Even if he's the second, and I'm guessing on that, right? So Lionel drove the Forbats record to #1 at radio. And Forbats has a #3 album on Apple Music right now. And obviously, I hear you talk about him quite frequently on your show.
I love talking about Forbats.
I know you do, so I'm bringing him up, and probably aptly I'm bringing him up. But I'm bringing him up to say, like, I don't own the music. Gamma doesn't own the music. They own the music, right? And not only do they own the music, but what you saw as a 16-point royalty is not what, I don't want to get into the particulars of the math of the deal or anything of that nature, but we are on the minority side of the equation. And the inversion of that is the opportunity of right now for independent artists, the inversion of that. And it was inconceivable, I'm sure, to Joe Budden in 2002 that you could ever have a deal and plug into a place like Gamma where you could realize your highest potential, get services on the level of what you would want to get at a Def Jam or any of those places at that particular time. But it exists now. And on top of that, you don't have to sign up for a 16-point royalty in order to be able to achieve success.
Thank God.
That's big. That's transformative. That's what I was just saying a moment ago. That's hugely transformative. So I don't know, unless that story is actually told, to the extent that I can share the details that I did, which I think I shared a lot, I don't know unless that story is told that people really understand the opportunities that are there. The myth is, in order for you to become the biggest thing that you can become as an artist, that you have to subscribe to that. And all of that does have a place and a purpose. I'm not saying what I'm saying to demean or be mean-spirited or anything like that. I have a lot of friends that are in the business at that level, but there are other paths and there are other ways now. There are other routes. And whether you look at Sexy Red's success right now, she's an independent artist. Shout out to Stan and Jay of Rebel, Open Shift. By the way, those guys are on fire.
I love Sexy Red too.
But Stan and Jay, man, they got this record out of DR right now called A La Pita. Juan Soto walked out to it the other day. I saw Kai Cenat dancing to it on the live stream last night.
Yeah.
They just keep one after another. They're incredible partners for me and for Gamma. I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of their hustle. They fight for the ball. They get to the hoop. They get in the lane. You know what I'm saying? And because of that, we're succeeding with Sexy Red. I was proud to have produced with our team the Color Purple soundtrack. I think Willow's album just came out through us last week. Phenomenal talent. Phenomenal talent. Willow Smith is a virtuoso, beyond, and I really hope she gets her flowers on this album. The point why I'm raising that is that, we're not looking to peddle things that are, terrible or corrosive for the culture in that particular way. You know what I'm saying? That point, I caught that, and it did disturb me a little bit that was being perpetuated in that particular way, because, I think it's necessary. I don't think anybody's voice should matter more than others. I don't think Red's voice is any less important than the aforementioned person that I just mentioned, right? Yeah. I don't think so, and I think her voice matters too, by the way. Absolutely.
And speaking of Candace, I got the impression that she didn't know but so much hip hop. I don't know how much music was even a part of her experience. So when you have just a casual listener, is it wrong of them to assume that whoever is behind these acts assumes the audience doesn't have the bandwidth for more than a Sexy Red? Like, I think there should be room for all. Back to hip hop welcomes all. I think the concern comes when you only see one type of representation.
I mean, Willow's album is incredible, Willow's album is incredible. The Color Purple soundtrack, I was so proud of that. Never in our lives could you imagine if I told you in 1999 that you could walk into Virgin Megastore in Times Square and you could own the entire store for $9.99. Mm-hmm. Joe, you can have every CD here on the wall. Everything is yours. How much is it gonna cost me? $9.99. Bro, one CD cost $11.99 at that time. I could have the whole store for $9.99. Mm-hmm. Ain't nobody make you listen to anything, dog. You have everything that you want on your phone. There's 100,000 songs uploaded every single day to DSPs. It's insane. Never has there been a greater access to a diverse group of songs, artists, albums ever before in our life, with such ease and for access and simplicity. And I'm proud to have been a part of that at my time at Apple Music in terms of the architecture with respect to that access too, But it's not like you only got $20 in your pocket. You can only go in and buy one CD, And I think you're talking about something. I don't want to play stupid. I think you're talking about something that is like, why is this? I mean, I'm guessing. I don't know. Maybe.
Talk to me. I'll tell you.
Why is this all we're seeing? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. But I'm not talking about just Gamma. I mean, in the field.
Yeah.
Period. Mm-hmm. Like back in the day when we talk about having all those labels, there was such a variety in acts. There did at least feel like it was some freedom of choice. Today, even with us having millions and millions of songs in here, it does feel like the major label institutions continue to push the same thing to the forefront. And I believe in frequencies.
I do too.
I believe in frequencies.
Our company's called Gamma because of a frequency. I was sitting down with my friend Michelle Sanasuoso, who programmed The Beat in LA and programmed KML. She hired me as a music director when I was 16. And we were having a conversation about transcendental meditation. And we were talking about brainwave frequencies and how our brain oscillates between frequencies during the day, delta, theta, alpha, beta, the highest form of brainwave frequency is gamma, 38 hertz and higher. So when you sit down to write, pump it up. When you sit down to do what you do. Gamma mode.
Yeah, I'm in my gamma mode. You goddamn right.
So I believe in frequencies too, so much so that I, call the company Gamma, and that's our North Star every day that we look to. Are we creatively, are we vibrating on the highest frequency,
I know.
Yeah.
Gamma, tell me more about Gamma. Because I've heard you say Gamma's a tech company. There's some other people saying tech companies. There's a lot of tech companies popping up. I think for some artists today, it's hard to distinguish between what a tech company does and what the majors provide. I don't know if there's enough clarity there.
Oh no, I follow. You know, I was at Apple for 8 years. I was a part of Beats, and they acquired the company, thankfully, in 2014. And I went to the best graduate school that I could have ever imagined going to in life. And I was able to be there for the architecture so much in the software services department with Eddie. Apple Pay I saw come about, Apple TV I saw come about, et cetera. And one of the things that Jimmy Iovine and Trent Reznor and I had a hand in creating for Apple was Apple Music. And that really kind of, I think we're living in the wake of that right now, the post-Apple Music, post-Spotify wake. And that's really created the democratization of distribution, the unlimited access to choice of songs. And over those years, I was involved with a lot, you know, there. Everything from, you know, Carl Cherry brought in the Chance the Rapper Talking Book album deal.
He smoked that. Go
Yeah,
Carl.
yeah, incredible. Shout out to Carl, man. He made that deal. Drake, we did the deal with him for Views and OVO Sound Radio and What a Time to Be Alive album. And that was, I mean, by the way, I think that deal, and I'm going to get to what you asked me, but I think it's an important setup with respect to that. That deal, though, I will say, though, the deal with Drake was so important for where things were, because if you look at Apple prior to Apple Music, the music mosaic from a marketing perspective with respect to iTunes was John Mayer, Sarah Bareilles, Jet, Feist, Coldplay. That was it, you know? So when I got to the company, the first day I got to the company, U2 album was put on everybody's phones that
Yeah,
day.
boy, was I mad about it.
You and a lot of people were. I think it was overblown, to be honest with you. Now that we can look at it retrospectively, I'm not sure what everyone was so upset about, but I understand, I guess.
It was overblown.
I had nothing to do with it, but you know, I'm joking partially.
And it's a smooth move now. It was a smooth move.
It was a smooth move.
It reminded me of, well, on a smaller scale, of whatever that trick was Jay-Z pulled with the Samsung.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I sold
yeah.
a million.
That was dope.
It's tricks.
Yeah, there's definitely tricks to be had. But yeah, so it was an incredible opportunity to be able to assert my opinion and say, maybe the dad rock thing is dead and maybe we should be focusing on this area, which is, I'm telling you, the stock's at $10. If you get in, it's going to 100. And I'm talking about black music. I'm talking about hip hop culture. I'm talking about where I come from. And I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. Which then came those deals that I was just referring to, right? But the Drake deal was really important, so important. I would even analogize it to when Walter Yetnikoff fought to get Billie Jean on MTV for the first time.
Okay.
That important. Because again, before that, you were talking about John Mayer, Sarah Bareilles. They, like, digital music was dominated by those artists at that particular time.
Okay.
You know, every once in a while, like 50 Cent would sneak in and Eminem, but it wasn't like it is right now. So when I got to Apple, I looked at DatPiff, MyMixtapes.com, LiveMixtapes.com, and more than I felt like Spotify was our competition, I felt like that was an area that we needed to occupy.
Wow. Yeah.
Because it was all free
Genius.
music. Come again?
Genius.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it was. Yeah, I mean, SoundCloud I'd add to that. So to be able to convince artists to take their music off of their platforms and now put it through this new thing called streaming took a lot of work. But the people that got it first, I will say, people who really got it first were Drake and Abel, you know? And that changed my life, you know, because it made leaving what we were doing at that time at Interscope and putting our careers on the line to do this new idea at Apple a success. And again, I think those deals what they did was that they educated us. They educated our culture. This is the new place where you get the shit at.
Yeah. It was fire.
In
And
the
it
same,
looked big.
it was big, it was transformative, and in the same way that it did the same thing in 1983 when Billie Jean got on MTV, you know, because it became, okay, this is the place that we tap into. I think that might have even been before BET really became a thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
At the time, though, when the Apple exclusives came about.
I want to get back to Gamma though, but let's go down this path though for a second.
All right, let's get back to Gamma in a second. When the Apple exclusives came out,
Yeah.
there were some of us confused out there wondering how that even was allowed to take place, because these were artists that were signed.
You want the truth? The truth.
Yeah.
Nobody believed in streaming. Like oftentimes felt like when I went into these meetings that like I was at Jimmy and we were literally just shouting into the wind, you know, no free streaming. You know, when I say no free, I mean it's shorthand for, you know, we never, and I still don't love free tiers. I think, you know, it's like, here's tap water and here's Saratoga. And if I had the choice, what would I choose? And it's not like you're asking a lot for $9.99 a month when I tell you you can go to Virgin Megastore. I'm using that as an example from the 90s, and I think you remember what I'm talking about. The Virgin Megastore was massive in Times Square. Mm-hmm. Not asking a lot if you go into a store and I tell you you can buy the entire store for $10, you know? But some people want tap water, and you know, some people, you know, want the curation of the environment in that particular way. You know, the ease and the simplicity and the access of it all, right? Mm. So the exclusive albums were symptomatic and a byproduct of the fact that there was a lot of apathy. Of like, all right, if it works, it works. I don't know, you know what I mean?
Wow.
It just was like complete flat-footedness in that particular regard. And to be candid with you, I felt like I inherently understood that because of what we had just dealt with in terms of trying to evangelize and popularize Beats music. And it felt like we were literally banging our heads up against the wall every day to kind of get people to take us seriously for it to matter. So thinking, you know, cleverly and opportunistically, I was like, the only way that you could create the scale is to create FOMO. Only way that you could create scale is to create FOMO. And in creating FOMO, you know, there has to be something that this place has that you can only gain access to, and you don't want to be left out of the memes. You don't want to be left out of the captions. You know what I mean? You don't want to be left out of the conversation. And in order to scale your platform and have that, you have to have something that you can't get anywhere else. And I don't mean like something you can only get on paid tiers. I mean something you can only get here.
Yeah.
And therefore, you know, the exclusive thing was my idea, you know, and I think that it really, I mean, if you look at Apple Music right now, top songs on the platform, and you look at that up against other services, you know, it looks a certain way, and that lives on to this day, and I'm pretty happy about that legacy because, as I said before, in iTunes in that era, digital music was primarily, and the consumers that fled to these platforms were primarily, it wasn't our music, it wasn't our genre in that particular way, you know. So yeah, I mean that's how that happened. It was by kind of like, well, you know, you want to put out the album exclusively, and so be it. And it was only until like these endeavors became successful that it was like, oh, okay, hold on.
I'm about to say, because things at some point, everyone knew the value, and it became a thing.
Oh, it became a thing.
It became a thing.
It became a thing, yeah.
How much can you tell me about the transformative Frank Ocean deal? That changed the game.
Frank is a genius. I have such deep respect for him. Mark Gillespie too. I would liken that to like, you know, Ocean's 11. And you know, I think it was all fair what he did. I can't speak too much. I can't speak real, and that's all I'm going to say. But what I will say, which I think you'll appreciate, is that that moment imbued me with the confidence that what I'm doing today could indeed be possible.
Yeah, I imagine it would.
And what I mean by that is that I perhaps even thought up until that point that you needed the machine to succeed, right? So when that album came out on a Sunday with 2 days of no charting and did 300,000 albums in 5 days with 10 people, myself included, working on it, I knew anything was possible. And in that regard, and it imbued me with the confidence to be able to do what is Gamma now, just to bring it back to your original question.
Yeah, there we go. Well, no, back to my original question, the tech company and the differences between.
Well, the reason why I brought up the Apple of it all is because Apple's a tech company. And with distribution now being democratized for mobile devices, it's not like you need like a pressing plant for CDs or for vinyl. You need the underlying technology. You need the software to be able to distribute music to these 200 some odd DSPs around the world. And you think of it as just Apple and Spotify and whatnot, but you've got AudioMac is like the biggest streaming service right now in like Nigeria. Deezer is the biggest one in France, so on and so forth. You have all these kind of regional services that are very popular on a regional level, and there's about 200 of them. So I went through a process of looking at which ones had the technology that could unlock this idea that I had in my head around what I wanted to create with Gamma. And after having a few meetings, I met a gentleman by the name of Roy Lamanna, and he had a company called Vidya, and he owned the tech stack. He built the tech stack from A to Z, not reliant on any other company like Fuga or any company of that nature. None of it was outsourced. All of it was a fully developed tech stack A to Z. And you need that if you want to upload your music and get it out to all the streaming services in the world, or get your video out to YouTube, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? In this day and age, that is. And that's a technology. That's inherently a technology. It's a piece of software. If you talk about Salesforce, which is an enterprise software company, technology company. You talk about a company I'm on the board of directors of, which is Salesforce's competitor, ServiceNow. That's a technology company. These companies are enterprise software companies that provide the infrastructure, the tech stack for large corporate matrices like Deloitte that has like 800,000 employees, or Chase, which has 100,000 employees, to be able to have IT work, to have procurement work, to have customer service work, to have all of these various facets and verticals and silos within a company speak to each other and work together in a way that makes that company successful. And the reason why I'm bringing that up from an analogous perspective is that in music, you need that too. You need to have technology in this day and age that allows you to upload your music, that allows you, one of the things that I'll announce today that we are providing our premium customers is the ability to get paid once a week. You know how crazy that is?
Yes, yes, I do.
I think you do,
Yes,
given
I do.
how often you were not paid.
You goddamn right.
While Pump It Up was out.
Yeah, this was unheard of.
It was unheard of. I mean, you're lucky to get a check at all. Even if you're recouped, you're lucky to get a check at all. And again, I don't mean this with any level of mean-spiritedness, demeaningness, love everybody in that regard, you know what I'm saying? But we're doing something different. And what we're doing is paying people on a once-a-week basis. Shout out to my boy Russ, who's with us out of Atlanta. Shout out to Russ in Milan. This has been in beta with him already.
Good old Russ.
Russ, man, that boy he is an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I love his mind.
I love his mind too.
I love his
man.
message.
I love his message too, and so much admiration and respect for him. But this has been in beta with him already. So what I'm talking about is not some like Space Odyssey 2001 hypothetical, probable thing. Maybe we'll get to it, maybe we won't. It's already in beta. We're already doing it. So now if we can scale it across more artists, what does that look like when Daniel Ek says that I paid out $9 billion to the rights holders in 2023, and 4.5 billion of that was to the independent sector. That says to me that more artists are making a hard-earned living where they don't have to work another job. They don't have to be a barista. They don't have to be a bank teller. You know, they don't have to, you know, do any of that kind of stuff that distracts them from their craft, and they can actually focus on their craft and earn a six-figure living from their craft. So therefore, they should get paid like people who are baristas.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like people who are working in corporations. They should have the same pay cadence as that. And that's how things need to revolutionize right now. When you ask me, do I think that independent artists realize where things are at right now? Not quite. I mean, even without us paying people once a week, we're paying people, every one of our clients, we're paying them once a month right now.
It's unheard of.
I mean, I think so. Yeah, I'm not hearing it anywhere else like that. And I'm so proud for that to be the case because, you know, we don't need to hold on to the money for interest. We don't need to do any of that. We just need to create transparency. It's almost like against the very tenets, the basic tenets and principles of what the business was founded on in the doo-wop era, you know, where like the guys who wrote Why Do Fools Fall in Love got paid $1,000 and then they pulled up to Morris Levy's house to go, Morris, Why Do Fools Fall in Love sold 3 million. Can we get a check? And I think he told him like, you know, get the hell off my property. I'm gonna hurt you, I'm gonna kill you. And I believe is what he said to them. You can look that up. But yeah, man, I mean, it's this is where we come from. And now this is where we are. And you add that, not only getting paid at that level of cadence, but actually having, which we do, a financial data and analytics dashboard. You could actually look at your earnings in real time in that particular regard.
Russ speaks about it often.
Oh, he's the best. Yeah. He's the best. And he uses our
He'll
dashboard
even show
regard.
it.
What's that?
He'll even show it.
Based on generative AI, we have actually developed a real-time revenue calculator where if you're a B2B client within our system like Stan and Jay, or like 360, or like Method Music, so on and so forth, you can actually look and do a calculation of what the earnings will be for what you could be making in a week, what you could be making in a month, or what you could be making in 6 months. And then that actually provides the path for you to be able to pay your clients, you know, within that particular company on a once a week basis or once a month basis, with a level of granularity and hopefully accuracy that has never existed before in the history of the music business.
Why couldn't that be something that major labels inherited? That sounds so helpful.
It's a good question. I don't know. You know, I don't want to speak on their business. You know, I really, quite frankly, hope this actually can scale across the entire music business. But I think the way that we do our contracts is simple enough where we can actually execute against this. And I think, you know, when I speak to Ye about contracts, his perspective is like, contracts are too complicated. All needs to be on one page.
That's a fact.
Bullet pointed.
Yeah.
Easy to understand. And when you can actually simplify things and you can streamline contracts and you can take out all of that verbiage and language that's meant to actually confuse, then you can get to actually paying people with this kind of cadence in that kind of way. One of the things that I don't love is seeing people talk about other people's business or whatever. So, you know, I feel like, I hope it can scale, but I'm proud to be first to it, our company first to it. I mean, our company, Roy LaManna, Jenna, Mark Gorman, the whole distribution team, you know, Andrew Ma, Data Analytics, who came from Apple and joined us. It took a team to really be able to crack this code and figure this out. But by God, we did. And I think what we have as a product is, I mean, who wouldn't want to get paid once a week? Who wouldn't even want to get paid once a month? I'm being, you know, self-critical, but I think even that in and of itself is a triumph, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's why we see the birth of so many content creators today, just trying to monetize everything so, you know, they can get paid bi-weekly or monthly. Speaking of content creators, what do you think is the difference between an artist and a content creator to major labels today? The line is getting blurry.
Oh, extremely, yeah. What do I think about it? It's to major labels.
Yeah, like what's the where's the line drawn, right? Like, you see so many record labels target either content creators or just people with large audiences that they've amassed via their socials. And we'll worry about the artist part later. We got to get you the song and audience later, but just come in ready, built, make your content, and we'll try to add on to that if we can.
Again, I don't, love speaking about other people's businesses in that particular way or, what they've got going on, but I can tell you about what we're doing. And I'll tell you about the Rick Ross deal, for instance, right? I think that's a pretty important one to shine a light on. With Rick Ross, the deal that Breon and I did with Rick Ross wasn't about an album, wasn't about, that kind of traditional thought. It'll be coming out soon. No competition to you, of course. But we signed Rick not only for albums, but we also signed him for podcasts. So Rick Ross podcast, and I think we can all admit that Rick Ross is hilarious. Too Good to Be True was an awesome album. You spoke positively on it, and I think you said, I remember something about for him to be independent and post those kind of numbers, that's a triumph or something of that nature you said, which I appreciated, and it was. But I don't look at him, to answer your question, with respect to how we look at it, I don't look at him as an artist with any less validity than a content creator, and that's kind of what I'm talking about in terms of like why we signed him not only for albums, but we also signed him for podcasts, because podcast is content creation. We're creating content as we speak right now here, right? Mm-hmm. But he also creates albums. So from that perspective, to have a deal that has that level of duality to it, that dual prong to it, to me, I'm not necessarily, and I want to be thoughtful in saying that, I think this is truthful, I've not heard of that kind of contract being cut with the aforementioned,
Got it.
And you know what I'm saying. I'm trying not to
No, I understand.
say them.
I get it. Listen, I'm with you. I'm coasting here. What, because it sounds like you are delivering some other options and incentives for creatives to remain independent and not just be so reliant on that ecosystem that's already built.
Like, I'll give you another example. My friend Angie, who created the Shade Room, we have a deal together to create podcasting. We actually have a media company who created it together. So I don't want to say who we've signed first or who's coming through that necessarily, but I think Angie is absolutely brilliant. I think her channel, you can say what you want about it, has even greater engagement than Fox News, New York Times, CNN, Wall Street Journal. I mean, if you look at actual engagement on the Shade Room versus any of those other news outlets, it's not even competition. Like, what are we even talking about, And it's not just African Americans that are consuming it, it's multicultural,
Yeah, but do people look at it as just some black shit?
It's tough for me to say yes or no to that, because when I look at black culture to me is pop culture.
Same.
And I think, it's pigeonholed or
it's not held to the standard it should be. It's not treated as the premium that it is. Like, when you say black shit, that should come with some esteem and some high regard, and it doesn't in this
construct.
Yeah.
Indeed. So in any event, my point is that from my perspective, from our perspective, content creation is no different, no dissimilar as albums, as music, as songs, and we look at it all the same. I mean, really, like, my perspective about what I'm doing from a theoretical perspective at Gamma is really rooted in everything that I was doing and my team were doing at Apple Music, which was, one of the first times we actually really spent time was on the Queen radio podcast.
Yeah.
I came up with that idea with Nikki, and as an A&R person who's talking to you about, this album or that album or this artist that I signed or whatever, I don't look at, I'm a hit-oriented individual, and that was a big hit, we can agree, right? Still is a big hit.
Goddamn right.
But especially while it was there, you know what I'm saying? And I'm so proud of what we created in that regard. But
I'm pushing back. I'm pushing back on some of this. Actually, I'll ask you this. Well, what will you deem to be more valuable, the Rick Ross album or the Rick Ross podcast?
Man, I would turn the tables on that question and pose that to you. So I don't even want to say you are a recording artist, because you could record another song.
Oh, I could pop right back out.
You could pop right back out.
Yeah, you goddamn right.
Let's not get it fucked up.
Yeah.
So what would you rather spend your time doing right now?
For me, that answer is podcasting, which is a large part of why I retired. That's been a large part of my mission to spread and share information with up and coming artists, and just people that don't have, the experience with all of these major labels. That was a big part for me. I felt like I was one of the greatest rappers in the world, and I had a 15-year career of trying to figure out where the money was coming from. Now, I did that in podcasting too.
Where the money was coming from, where it was going?
Both.
Yeah.
Both.
Yeah, where it was coming from to support yourself, and where it was going in terms of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What office I needed to run into. Now, I needed to do that with podcasting too, but in podcasting, I kind of felt like it wasn't all figured out yet. So let me be patient and see where this thing goes. But for me, it was always D2C.
Yeah.
That was my mission. I was going to stand firm in that, win, lose, or draw. And today, I fucking reap the benefits of that.
Immensely.
So for me, that answer is podcasting.
Yeah. I understand your choice.
My fans don't.
Yeah. I get it.
They want some music.
Man, that advertising revenue gotta be looking crazy right now.
Oh, man. God is good.
God is good. Won't he do it?
I can't stop looking at that watch. That's a nice piece.
Oh, thank you, sir. Yeah.
And you're way too wealthy for me to pocket watch, so I'm just admiring.
I'm actually the ambassador for Cartier in the United States, so shout out to Cartier.
How does that come about? How many different companies are you a part of?
It's a good question, actually. Cartier, Gamma, ServiceNow, Hammer Museum. The last two, I'm on the board of directors of the Hammer Museum, and also ServiceNow, which is an enterprise software company. ServiceNow is an incredible company, $160 billion market cap company. Market cap has doubled probably in the last year.
Now, as much as I love and respect you, I certainly threw out some wild theories regarding Gamma as it pertains to Drake and why people may be so angry at him. Totally unfounded and without basis and merit. But it was a fun pod. It was a fun pod to try to discover some of these things without jamming you up, because I don't really want, now that I'm with you, I don't want to include you in my mess. But do you think that Drake's deals are a point of contention for his peers?
I can't answer that question. It's not appropriate on my place. I have to definitely display good cultural etiquette. So, do you like your water? Would you like any ice with that?
No, this is excellent. This is some of the best water I've had.
It's good, no?
No, it's good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll at least say my wild theory. My wild theory was that Drake had to have some type of hand in Gamma, which is why he's promoting Ross albums and Sexy Red. And he must have some type of deal that's not even available to other people, to whereas he gets to be the owner and player, or player and whatever that other title is, like Herb Williams used to be for the Knicks, player coach. Like, he's just twofold right now, and it seems to be causing a lot of trouble.
You want the truth?
Sure.
My partner, Gamma's president, Ike Youssef, and I went and knocked. I was so passionate about this idea for so long that I saw, there was private equity was investing so much money into catalogs because capital was cheap in 2019, 2020. Interest rates were very low, so borrowing capital was very easy.
Okay.
And the thing that's happened with streaming is that it's provided predictable insight into recurring revenue. So like I was saying earlier, it's very easy to predict what something can do and what it can generate because there's now all of this historical data now going back to the early 2010s around what things have streamed. And you could, it's very easy to figure out and calculate and quantify. But no one really believed in what we wanted to do, what I wanted to do, which was investing in the frontline business. There's a myth out there that catalog is bigger than it's ever become. And I think it's actually an intentionally skewed perspective that's been seeded because anything that's considered catalog is music that is older than 18 months. So the thing that I'll say to you about the artist you just mentioned is that if you look at his music, he's bigger than the 70s, 80s, and 90s combined. I don't mean like one artist from that era. I mean all of those eras combined. 70s and the, I'll even say the 60s, 70s, and 80s rather, not the 90s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. At any given point, because the catalog that is the richest catalog right now, and I'm probably saying something that hasn't been stated necessarily, the biggest catalog right now is not the stuff from any of those decades. The biggest catalog is stuff from the 90s onward, even the 2000s onward. I mean, you as an artist, recording artist, Pump It Up came out in 03 or 02?
Oh, yeah.
02? You're like right in that sweet spot from 2000 on of the biggest catalogs that people are consuming on streaming services. It really is music from the 2000s, 2010s. It's the most popular catalog music. So in any event, not to be too loquacious about it, what we saw an opportunity for was to invest in frontline music. Taking a long way around the block to answer your question, but there's a purpose here that I went and knocked on every single door. KKR, TPG, TCV, Providence, this one, that one. I probably heard 14 no's until I got to the 15th door. And that person was Todd Bowley, who was in a car headed to his plane going someplace. We had a conversation about what I was looking to achieve and that Apple was already in. So between Apple, Eldridge, which is Todd, Alpha Wave, which is my friend Rick Gerson, and myself putting in money, real skin in the game, as they would say, those are the investors, you know?
Got it.
And, but, you know, money's one thing, but when you're imbued with the inspiration to do something, that to me sometimes is more valuable than even the capital that sometimes is even invested, because that gives you the courage of your conviction to go out and do something. So all the things that we achieved while I was at Apple around exclusive albums, as we touched on earlier, et cetera, with the individual that you're noting, imbued me with the confidence and the courage of my conviction to go out and do what we're doing right now. Can you put a price tag on that? Can you put a value on that? No, you can't. But I don't think I'd be sitting here with you talking about this company today unless I was given the courage of my conviction by those people that were able to really help me realize this vision and this dream. Working with those gentlemen gave me so much inspiration that I can't even overstate it enough how inspiring those times and those adventures and those things that we endeavored to do and succeeded at doing, by the way. Because the last hip hop album that sold over 1 million in the first week, you know, that was incredible to be able to be involved with that, you know. But like I said, I mean, you know, it's we do hits, we count cards.
Count cards. Your story is riddled with so many wins. What are some of your biggest failures? I don't even like to say failures, but what are some of the plays that didn't hit?
Getting expelled from high school, getting fired with cause from Sony, knocking on 14 doors until hearing yes after a while, spending all of my money to fly all over the world at that time. But I think what could be considered failures or obstacles, to me, quite frankly, are the things that have really, again, imbued me with grit and determination to be here with you today in that particular regard, if that makes any sense to you at all.
I get it.
You know?
Have there been hurdles race-related in your story?
Oh, yeah. It's always from the place of he has the audacity, you know what I'm saying? Like from that regard.
Yeah.
You know, if not us, then who? Why have you been on this journey to be privy to these moments, to be part of these moments, to acquire this knowledge, to do all of this? It's really hitting me in a profound way right now. If you're not going to apply it to something that can open up new avenues, open up new doors in that particular way. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. I agree with that.
But it's always the audacity of.
When that audacity is shown, normally there are people that want to try to relieve you of some of it.
Yeah.
Have you experienced that?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I have. Thank God I had people like my brother in my life to be able to, you know, be that coach in the corner of the ring to, you know, just tell me not to give up and just to keep going. Yeah, it has not been smooth sailing whatsoever. It's been very choppy, treacherous waters at many times for sure. These moments included, by the way. Just get on with it. You know what I mean? Just get on with it.
Yeah.
Right? Have you had those moments?
Yeah. Yeah, I have. But you summed it up perfectly. You just get on with it.
Yeah. Why dwell?
Yeah. Straightforward. None of that deters me.
At all. If actually anything, it actually motivates you, you know?
Yeah. Pushes
Quite
you even
frankly,
more.
pushes you even more.
Who are the biggest winners and losers in this Kendrick versus Drake beef?
Oh, Lord. How are we going to touch on these questions, man?
Well, I worded it that way for a reason.
Yeah, I mean,
Because all of us may be stuck looking at the creative of this. Of, hey, and bars and rap and metaphors, and they've been sneak dissing for years. But I feel like there are subplots at play.
yeah, I wasn't really, I'm really not wasn't really, but I'm not keen to speak on it at all. But I can speak to you about something that we touched on earlier, and maybe this experience that I had will maybe kind of give you an answer to that question, at least from a bit more of a thoughtful perspective. We talked about my history at KMEL in San Francisco. You know, I started off really young. I mean, probably before many were in the business, you know, part of this moment of this culture or whatever. We're in the business, but so I'm young enough to get what's going on right now, but I'm old enough to have lived through it. Not lived through it, but have had the experience to been in it. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you two moments of that in particular. Maybe might answer your question in a more thoughtful way. I remember when Big's Life After Death was about to drop, and Big and C's, they love the Bay Area. Love the Bay Area. And they used to come out and they loved Franzen, who I interned for and then worked with at KMEL in San Francisco. And they were always out there. And he did Summer Jam for us, I think, twice. And Notorious B.I.G. was huge in the Bay Area. Probably just as big in the Bay Area as he was in Brooklyn. He was beloved.
Wow.
Beloved. In particular because he spent a lot of time there. So the week before Life After Death dropped, he was in the Bay. Lance Walden, who was a promo rep, brought him out there, and he was promoting. And there's even a video that you can find where he came to Wild 107 and was at KMEL and spent time, but he loved Franzen, you know, C's and Big. So I had a chance, an opportunity, and, you know, difficult one for me to share for the first time in front of my parents here, but I had the opportunity to smoke a blunt when I was 16 with Notorious B.I.G. We're the same age, man. Can you imagine like going to school the next day and said you blazed with Biggie?
Yeah.
And you're 16? That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Actually, yeah, I was 16 because it was March of '97. So a week later, because I was on the radio at a weekend shift between 5 a.m. and 9 a.m. on Sunday morning, I remember right when I got to work, maybe 15 minutes after I broke the mic and, you know, getting into my show, I got a call on the hotline. And it was from the program director of the station who said he spoke to the head of the label and that Notorious B.I.G. had just passed away. I mean, it was inconceivable to me. I was just hanging out with this guy a couple days ago. We were just blazing, and he had a great laugh, and it was, and his album was just dropping on Monday, because albums, remember, they dropped on Monday night going into Tuesday night. His album was just about to drop. What? This is insane. Inconceivable. And I had to announce this to the Bay Area, where Biggie was such a fixture and beloved, for the first time at 16 years old.
As a 16-year-old.
As a 16-year-old. Who hadn't even experienced any loss, a profound loss in my life at that particular point in time. No real way to understand what I was saying and what it meant and what this whole moment was. And I remember also playing Hit 'Em Up, adding it on the, putting it in a rotation. And I remember I got suspended for 2 days for playing the record by the program director because of how he felt in terms of its negative impact at that time. And I didn't get it. And I remember Sway, who worked with us at KMEL, had done the interview with Pac a week before, well, maybe 2 weeks before, if not a week or two before Pac passed away. I was a part of all these moments. I had a front seat to all these moments. So I'm not involved. I'm not picking anybody yet. I'm just giving you stories, real stories of things that I've witnessed at another time that didn't play out so positively. So therefore, I can't engage like that, man. But
yeah, but that was one of the reasons that people were so excited about this Drake-Kendrick exchange, is because...
Listen, man, I'm going to cut you off because I don't want to go too deep on it, but there's only one winner in this situation. And that person is sitting in Santa Monica.
I get it.
When you talk about our technology, there are people that could be perceived to be competitors to what we're doing or who I am or what, And two of those people could be, for instance, Ghazi or Steve Stout. I think Steve Stout is one of the best African American executives of our generation. Ghazi, same thing. What he's built with Empire, fantastic. Mm-hmm. I mean, Ghazi was at my brother's memorial. I don't even know how he got the invitation. He was there, So, and that I'll never forget for the rest of my life. So, while you may feel competition, while you may feel like you're at war, it's just really tough for me to fall into the trick of there can only be one of us.
Yeah, I understand.
And they've always made us feel like that. They've always bred that into us. For centuries, they've always bred that into us, that there can only be one of us. But there's Taylor, and there's Ariana, and there's Sabrina Carpenter, and I just saw Ariana just started following Sabrina Carpenter after the Met Gala, and
Billie
Eilish, and Dua Lipa, and
the crew.
With respect to what I do, I can't fall into that because I think there's room for everybody's greatness in that particular regard. Any more than when I brought up the Rick Ross podcast, your response was, that's fantastic. You started asking me economics of the situation and whatnot, but it wasn't why would you do that? You know what I'm saying? Your response wasn't that, which I appreciate, but it's interesting because I think we have the same barber, Duran Carr. He cut Duran, that's my LA barber. There you go. He cut me yesterday.
That's
right?
my guy.
Yeah, I know.
Duran, I miss you.
We love Duran.
Yeah.
But you ever sit down with a barber on the East Coast after Duran gave you your lineup out here, and he looks at you like, damn, who fucked up your line? Damn, who? It's like...
Yeah, why would you say that?
Why would you say that? You know what I mean? Another barber cut back. Do you get what I'm saying?
It wasn't you, nigga. Just fix it.
It's I know, you're the greatest barber ever. There can only be one great barber, and you're that guy, right?
Yeah.
Of course, he can't be great, too.
Yeah.
This man's over here just trying to make a living. Of course, the way that he lines you up or the way that he fades it is going to be a little different. But that doesn't make him any lesser than you.
Yeah. I see the point. I see it. I had to call Duran.
Yeah, he would like to hear from you.
I'm sure. I absolutely love
His rates
him.
went up, though.
Oh, no. Now that I hear he's cutting you. Yeah, I'm sure. How significant... Did you pay attention at all to the actor strike?
I did, yeah, very much so.
And the writer's strike?
Yeah, we were affected by it because we were in the middle of producing the music for The Color Purple at that time. Yeah.
I feel like that was such a great example and demonstration for the artists in the music business. And I can never understand why we didn't attempt to mimic that, like for what they were fighting for, which is how AI will be a part of this. They were fighting for streaming rights. Like with the streaming splits the way that they are, why aren't more people fighting that fight? And do you ever see it changing?
I mean,
like as someone that purchases music, it's
Yeah.
tough for me to champion streaming, even though I know that is how music is consumed today. It's just tough to champion that when we get 0.0000 whatever the number is that we get.
well, with paid tiers, like Spotify Premium or Amazon paid tier or Apple's paid tier, it's a penny per play. But the plays are their plays are so voluminous that when you add them up in the aggregate sense, it is real money, you know, if you're really streaming, right? And I'm not here to defend. I don't work for a streaming service any longer, so you know, I think my perspective is pretty neutral. We've moved from a transaction economy to a consumption economy. And the transaction economy was like, okay, I buy your CD, I take it home. You have no way to quantify how much if I even took the wrapper off of it to even listen to it, or if I did, how many times I played it, right? And in the consumption economy, you can see that and you can quantify that, and it's always something that will continue to throw off, because if I go and play Pump It Up Tonight, but I bought the cassette single or the CD single in 2002 for $2.99 or whatever they were charging at that particular point in time, that's a one-time transaction. And if me and how many ever other people listen to it, you can continue to eat off of that in perpetuity if you've recouped, of course. Which I assume you probably still have not as an artist.
You know what? That's a good question.
You should check that.
I want to say that I have today, like recently. And I don't believe some of the shit they tell me. They told me Pump It Up just went gold last year.
Listen, man, try auditing.
Oh.
I said try
Yeah,
auditing.
right, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And see how that goes for you when you get a response letter and how soon they can, you know.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say that I think the streaming services music streaming services, DSPs, get a really bad rap for is keeping all the money. You know, they pay out. Spotify is just starting to turn a profit after many years as a business, you know, and that's a long time to be in business to really just be turning that corner. Why is that the case? Because the lion's share of the money is paid out to the rights holders. They're not making all the money. They're not making all the money. They wish that they could. And that's why they diversified and brought you in to break up time spent listening on the platform.
Yeah.
So that, you know,
Yeah,
I mean, you know what I'm saying.
Try to pull a move, yeah.
Yeah,
I get
it's
it.
just like let's
Had to get from up under that.
yeah let's move some of this TSL somewhere else. The advertising revenue will come in from that, and we can diversify our interests here in that particular
Well, you're
way.
talking now.
I get it.
For the people out there that don't understand, right? Like when Spotify started their podcasting business, it was a way for them to let labels know, hey, it's not music, so we're splitting this up, and what happened from there is above my pay grade. Similarly, Universal and TikTok went through something where they pulled all the music, right? And I think recently they have come to an agreement. Have you been watching that?
Yeah, that's the beef I'm really interested in.
Well, why that one?
TikTok, in my opinion, is 10 times more valuable than MTV. You know, and I'll leave it at that. So
you would be sad to see it go.
Oh, tremendously, yeah. I think that their impact on music, it's not even a debate. It's not even a question. Not even a question.
Yeah.
I mean, how it's impacted our company, with Sexy Red, with Four Bats, with Honest Abe, who we just signed, with Usher. I mean, it's MTV times 10. To us, the reward far outweighs the risk. That's the beef that I was interested in the most, that one.
Did you think that Universal and TikTok would come to agreement?
I'm not my place to speak on.
I can't ask you, not your business. I know.
My place to speak on.
I know. I got it, buddy. Okay. Good thing I can read your mind. Talk to me about how Gamma plans to incorporate and adapt to AI and the usage of it moving forward.
Yeah, again, I mean, our perspective on generative AI is not whether or not, we can create a Snoop verse without him having to go in the booth and spit it. My perspective on AI and generative AI is really kind of driven by my experiences and the things that I see us doing at ServiceNow. For instance, text to code. So you decide you want to come out of retirement and be an artist. And this is one of the things that we are legitimately launching. What we offer our clients at ServiceNow is the ability to text to code, to create an app that, for instance, could be meant for someone in HR, to develop a sign-up portal for new employees or something of that nature. And we thought that we saw an applicability with respect to that approach. For instance, if Joe Budden wanted to come out of retirement and he wanted to make his own merch, and he wanted the merch to be an art studio with a bathtub in the background with birds chirping and flowers in the background. Basically what we're seeing right here. You type in your description with respect to that. It gives you the image. It gives you the template of the t-shirt. The image goes on the t-shirt. And we have the back-end infrastructure to be able to produce a t-shirt and fulfill it and to send it to your fans within 8 weeks' time. That's only made possible with generative AI. Give you another example. What we spoke of earlier, and where we're going with respect to the payment cadence for artists, that's only made possible again by generative AI. To really be able to do and have predictive data, financial data, insights is only made possible by generative AI. And the applicability that I see with respect to it, again, is not necessarily, I guess we can get Snoop to do a verse and we can get him to spit the verse without him being there. Yeah, those are nefarious ways with respect to the way that it's done, but it's almost kind of novelty, the trick gets old very quickly with respect to that. And people are really smart, and they know what's real and what's not. They can figure it out, There's enough sleuths on the internet to figure that out. But the true game-changing applicability to it is in the aforementioned ways rather than I'm saying right now in particular. Does that make any sense to you at all?
I'm following. Yeah.
So from a Gamma perspective, we see the true applicability with respect to AI coming in ways that actually help to develop quicker payment cadences for artists, to allow artists to become their own merch company, big merch company, on the level of BTS or Travis Scott,
Do you fear you'll receive pushback from a move like that?
What would be the pushback in that regard? And from whom? Because I see it as empowering, but maybe I'm always open.
But the music business I know is not one that typically likes to empower artists. So this sounds like it would be doing that. So when I say pushback, I mean from anybody not Gamma, from anybody that is not championing, hey, pay these guys, pay them monthly, pay them weekly.
I mean, again, like what I'm talking about with the enterprise software space is really kind of informed by the seat that I have on the company, So I derived a lot of inspiration from that, and I applied that to what we're doing in the music space, where I really look at us as like a enterprise software company in music, where you can white label our software. We don't even have to have our name or branding on it. And you can utilize that to call yourself a distribution company. You could decide that you want to become a distribution company and use our technology, use our software to be able to set that up without any attribution to us. without any attribution to us. And we're creating more and more B2B business clients and more B2B business opportunities because of this technology that we have. Like I said earlier, it's like the thumb has been down like this for so long that now technology has really leveled the playing field and democratized a lot. That's exciting because it creates more choices, it fuels more creativity, and it allows more easier access. When I was at Apple Music, Jimmy Iovine and Trent Reznor and Eddie and I talked about the kid in his or her bedroom. If you're you or me and we're 16, you're in Jersey City, I'm in San Francisco, we make a record, we export it on Pro Tools, on our laptop. We don't even have to master it. People don't even master records no more, right? I mean, you both.
It don't sound like it.
It don't sound like it.
Don't sound like it, I'll say that.
But still just as popular, nevertheless. But you export it, you don't master it, you come to us, you upload it, and you can have it out on every single streaming service in the world within 12 hours.
Because I'm such a challenging creative to work with, and because I've worked with a lot of creatives that I got a theory, we're all nuts. Every last one of us got a screw missing or a screw where it shouldn't be. What are some of the...
As Jimmy Iovine would say, a bend in the pipe.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges you face today in just dealing with creatives and attempting to empower them?
I think that the creatives now that I'm the most impressed by or the most inspired by and try to keep up with are the ones that are just have an innate ability to understand how to communicate right now. It's a language like no other in the sense that the internet and social media has its own language, its own vernacular. The way you cut videos, the way you edit videos, the cadence with which you post, the cadence with which you release music. It's all changed so much from the prior eras that I've been a part of the business that it's inspiring to see, people like Sexy Red, people like Forbats, people like Peso Pluma, people like Tommy Richmond, people that just don't give up. Virgil Abloh was a really good friend of mine, man. We're born in the same year within 24 hours of each other. May he rest in peace, man. That was a source of inspiration and a very good friend of mine. And I remember we had a conversation about it, about that very thing. And I always found him remarkable because he just got it out. Never overthought it, never ruminated, never at all overthought it. And I think he in many ways kind of created this archetype of this modern day creator, and especially from our culture, and how we choose to, and the language that we have for music and for social media and just for how we express ourselves in this modern world, I'm not sure if that's making any sense to you at all, but...
I'm following you.
Yeah.
I speak psycho creative.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, and likewise, by the way, I have to be ambidextrous, I was speaking to a business person the other day, and he was asking me about Gamma, and he was saying, you're a creative person, you're the visionary, you're the person that, that drives the vision of the company. You're yin, but you need a yang. And that yang needs to be someone who's fiscally minded, who can keep the trains running on the tracks from a financial level and handling the operations while you're just out there as the visionary. And while I can speak psycho-creative, I can also write with my left hand. And my yang, Ike Youssef, who's the president of the company, really the CFO of the company, my partner within Gamma, I think he probably, if he had a nickname for me, it would probably be Rain Man. Because I know numbers. I take pride in that because it is often the stereotype that the archetype of the creative individual, the visionary, whatever, is that person can only drive that and doesn't have an appreciation for the other. And in order to be able to write your ticket and chart your creative destiny, you have to have a grasp and understanding of business. It's fundamental. You just can't purely be a creative individual. You have to have someone at least who can complement you. Yeah. At least a little bit of, of an appreciation of that, I think is very important. But there's no doubt that as a creative individual, you have to have someone who can counterbalance that with respect to you. And I think you have that, with Ian, of course, right?
That's my man.
Shout out to Ian Schwartzman.
Yeah. You could have just left it at Ian, but I get it.
Come on, man. You got to let people know who he is, man.
They know. Listen, Ian's got a newsletter now. He's an ex-superstar. Ian is taking off.
He might drop his own podcast in a minute.
I know, he's trying to. He's trying to leave me. Give me the 3 to 5 year plan for Gamma and what that looks like.
I mean, I know we've reflected a lot and talked a lot about black music here today, but part of that makes me cringe a little bit in a certain sense, because that's the bucket that they always put us in. That's what we do because of what we look like, And when I first came to Interscope in 2011, beginning of 2011, my assistant at that time, or he just became an A&R manager at that time, was a fellow named John Eamon. And he played me a demo of a young lady by the name of Lana Del Rey. And I was blown away when I heard Diet Mountain Dew for the first time. I don't even know if we hadn't even heard video games really at all at that point. She had a couple of demos like Diet Mountain Dew, which made the album, the debut album. But I'm bringing that up to say that it was so important to me at that particular time to put everything, all the energy, resources, relationships, contacts, ideas into that project with Ben and Ed and John and Natalie and Julie Hosepian and Gary Kelly and Lana to create a success. And it's become a success. She has the biggest debut album by female artists ever in major label history. The album sold, I believe, 19 million albums globally. Lana Del Rey's Born to Die. I signed her, with John. I'm bringing that up because we reflected a lot about black music today, but I'm making an announcement very soon about our ambitions in Nashville, which is an area I'm sure you probably didn't expect to talk to me about country music today. But, having worked with Carrie Underwood, having worked with Scotty McCreery, having worked with Lauren Elena, all of those albums are platinum, if not multi-platinum albums, all came from Idol. To me, country music is just a different kind of ghetto music. Obviously a lot of it is derived from rhythm and blues, needless to say. Mm-hmm. But it's a music I relate to, and it's a music that we are going to, when you ask me about the 3 to 5 year roadmap, I'm talking first about the creative roadmap. So in addition to how we're succeeding right now in black music, we've got a record right now called E Lupita, which is coming out of Dominican Republic, which is a big record, big Latin record. So whether it's that or whether it's this record by Rafa Guido called Famax, which is breaking across Europe right now, and I believe will be one of the songs of the summer in Europe and Ibiza. Whether it's what we're going to be announcing within the next 30 days within Nashville, whether it's what we're going to be announcing imminently to take our creative operation to the next level in Africa. The globe. That's
what it sounds like.
100%, man. 100% the globe. And being globally minded and having global success in the past, it's only right to apply that and infuse that into business today so that we can see the fruits of that labor in the next 3 to 5 years. In addition to the advent of all the technology stuff that I'm talking about that I've reflected on earlier in terms of Gen AI and how it will impact artists and how they earn money and et cetera, all things that I've reflected on a couple times in our conversation. Mm-hmm. And I think when you can combine that, you have, and podcasting as well, something that, of course, that we reflected on too, but when you combine that, I believe you have the modern day technology company that drives music and media in a very modern way. And I'm excited about that. I really am. Excited. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
What you're doing is really important.
Yes, sir.
Your voice, your wealth of knowledge, your resources, just you being so welcoming. Like your role in this thing for me is just like, I can't even describe it.
I appreciate you saying that because my parents, married 50 years, educators. You know, my dad was one of the first black engineers in Silicon Valley. Worked at a company called Monolithic Memories, which then became Advanced Micro Devices. Advanced Micro Devices actually now makes all of the graphic microprocessors for these things. My dad was one of the first black engineers at this company.
Wow.
Working with semiconductors and microprocessors. Worked at City College of San Francisco, so did my mom. My mom was the head of human resources at Wells Fargo in the 1970s, the first African-American woman to hold a position of that particular nature. My mom also was an educator, also worked at City College of San Francisco. So I come from a lineage of educators. If I have this knowledge, I guess it, at some point should be a responsibility to share it and bequeath it. So here we are today.
You goddamn right, for sure.
Because they did, by the way, my parents. They passed it along, they bequeathed it. My dad took everything that he was doing professionally in Silicon Valley and then drove into San Francisco and taught courses on that at night about computer science. He didn't just go home with his ball at the end of the day and say, this is my information. He went for many years and taught in that particular way. Took that knowledge that he gained every single day in Silicon Valley, went up the peninsula to San Francisco, and taught a class at night and bequeathed and shared that knowledge in a benevolent way. So I thought of that when this conversation came up because it was like, I got to do it, you know? And there was a lot that we shared here today.
The only way to keep it, I believe, is to give it away.
Yeah. Not the squirrel.
Yeah. The kid that's home, unsigned, with some programs, trying to make music or trying to make a way through music. Lastly, what do you say to him about, or them, about how they should feel, how they should be thinking, and what they should be doing right this second? I'll leave you with that.
Making great art, betting on themselves, and knowing that there are more opportunities than ever before to get your art out into the world and be remunerated for it in a way that's better than what we have seen historically.
In history, yeah.
And that's not a self-serving thing to say. There are a lot of places where you could do that, you know. What we offer at Gamma, I believe, is very unique. The artists that we work with, the content creators that we work with. For instance, we work with Snoop, as you know. We just launched a jewelry line with Snoop. You know, we came up with a solution. Snoop likes to smoke a lot of blunts, but I noticed one day when he sent me a video, there were all these roaches that were on the table. And I was like, they were like blunts that were like a quarter of it were left. Like, good weed going to use.
Yeah.
So we came up with Metal Alchemist with a clip where you could put that in there, and someone who's got, you know, an incredible manicure like you does and like he does, and you don't have to, you know, burn the tips, you know, but also it's made of copper. So if you're sitting and smoking with the sick homie, copper is a metal that does not hold bacteria. You can put it in there, you can pass it, someone's coughing, sorry man, I'm just getting over the thing. It's a funny idea, but it's a real idea, and it's a gorgeous piece of metal, and it's something that we've come up with. We're also doing something with Snoop and Death Row. I can't announce who yet, but it's one of the preeminent fashion houses in the world, and we're doing something in that particular regard. So I look at our place in the equation as meant to accentuate and amplify. And I think we uniquely do that in a way that I don't see the others doing, and I'm proud of that, you know?
And hopefully the kid at home in his room feels that.
Yeah, and hopefully the kid at home in his or her bedroom comes to Gamma.
Larry, I love you.
I love you too, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the respect.
When you get to New York, we'll chop it up about why you started the Rick Ross podcast, and we haven't talked about podcasts. We'll get to it. Ladies and gentlemen, Larry Jackson.
Appreciate it.